about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on Dr. Dahlia's show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So this Minnesota Childcare fraud case is just, the more we learn about it, the more we're shocked. I'm still blown away at that sign where you have one of the centers called Quality Learning Center where learning is misspelled. By the way, they finally fixed that sign. I posted it on my Facebook. That should have already been a red flag that you have a learning center, a quote unquote quality learning center, and they can't even spell learning correct. If I would, that should have already alerted any person who was auditor of this, but nobody audited. And so unfortunately, we're looking at possibly billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars who got funneled to maybe foreign countries, individuals who had absolutely nothing to do with childcare. And now we taxpayers are footing the bill, not to mention all these kids that we were supposed to be helping in Minnesota. And who knows what other state this happened in, struggling to get the services they need. So as a result, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is freezing all child care payments to Minnesota, just freezing all of them. And unfortunately, when there's fraud of this magnitude and nobody I think over 55 different institutions is being investigated now within Minnesota with what's going on. HHS Deputy Secretary Jim O'Neill wrote on X, quote, "You have probably read the serious allegations that the state of Minnesota has funneled millions of taxpayer dollars to fraudulent daycares across Minnesota over the past decade." And in this message, he cited that independent journalist Nick Shirley's investigative work, highlighting the fraud, where he walked into a Minnesota daycare center and he goes, "Where's the kids?" It looked like some cubicles. It did not look like a daycare. You walk into a daycare, there's, pictures on the wall and murals and colorful, and and unfortunately there's been videos of families walking into these facilities and then leaving seconds later, like looking like they're dropping off the kids. So they have video proof that kids went there, but then they just leave because obviously it's not a facility for kids. This is some frightening stuff. And so O'Neill shared the viral video that was released last week by independent journalist Nick Shirley. And in this video, many of the facilities appeared non-operational, even though they allegedly received millions and millions and millions of dollars of government aid. So O'Neill said, "We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade." So according to Fox News, O'Neill said he ordered that all administration for children and families payments made across the country, require justification and receipt or photo evidence before money is sent to a particular state. It is terrifying that it's gotten to that level, but it should have never been this willy-nilly, loosey-goosey. It should have never been like this. I'm blown away because, if I saw a Medicare patient and a Medicaid patient and any patient that the U.S. government was paying me for, you document. I documented everybody to the same ethical quality as any insurance, because if somebody wanted to audit, they could see, this is when I saw them, this is the test I ran, which is why I've never, thank God, had an issue. Because if I saw Medicare or Medicaid patients and didn't have proper documentation, that would be so foolish, that would be so dangerous. You have to document. So now facilities have to document, which they should have done, and show proof that they're legit. Secondly, the agency is demanding that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz hand over a comprehensive audit of these centers that were featured in Shirley's video, the independent journalist, including attendance records, licenses complaints, investigations, and inspections. Now, the HHS has also launched a hotline to report the fraud. According to Fox News, Alex Adams, the Assistant Secretary for HHS Administration for Children and Families, said his office has provided Minnesota with $185 million in child funds annually. So they estimated that should be helping 19,000 American children, toddlers, infants. But Adams said any dollar stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children. He's right. So he spoke with the head of Minnesota Childcare Services offices on Monday, and he said that, quote, she could not tell me with confidence whether those allegations of fraud were isolated or whether there's fraud stretching statewide. Why not? That's her job. So somebody dropped the ball, or they dropped the ball on purpose. And like I said, this, as it evolves, is turning into, I think, a much bigger scandal than we could imagine. And unfortunately, our suspicions may prove correct if we do think that this was something that is nationwide. And to audit every child care facility is going to be a tall task. Now, it wouldn't be a tall task if everybody was doing their job. If you get government funds, you are supposed to be reporting information back. Like for example, if let's say a doctor gets taxpayer vaccines to vaccinate children for free, they document every vaccine that was given. They document the storage of the vaccines. And then if 20 vaccines were given or 20 vaccines had to be dispensed because of the age, that's all documented. And then you give that back to the agency, and the agencies ask for that. And then they give you more. I mean, we'll look at budgets. If you've ever worked for a corporation or academia, they need to know what you spent with the budget. You have to fill out and complete the paperwork for the budget. You have to submit it. And if there is any waste, fraud, or abuse, that gets hopefully addressed, except for those individuals that just look the other way. So with something like this, I'm frightened because we're talking about SNAP benefits. We're talking about feeding kids. We're talking about teaching kids and making sure that they get the services they need. And billions of dollars never got to them. We got a lot of work to do. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Back on Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So you would think bipartisanly, Republicans and Democrats would be like, this is a good move, as we are being told that SNAP bans, benefits for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is going to ban the taxpayer funds for soda, candy, and other junk food in 5 states at least starting January 1st. And we're being told by the New York Post that starting on Thursday, Americans in 5 states who get government money for supplemental nutrition will not be able to use that money for soda, candy, or junk food. And the states that are the first of at least 18 states working on this include Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and West Virginia. Now, this is something that I would think bipartisanly, everybody would be like, that's a good move. We're using taxpayer dollars for supplemental nutrition. SNAP benefits are for nutritional things, not non-nutritional things. Yet, unfortunately, because this was a push by Health Secretary, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Agricultural Secretary Brooke Wallens, there is criticism of it. I'm like, really? Now, 42 million Americans, or 1 in 8, need food stamps. I mean, we are, I guess, that undernourished in this country. So we should be concentrating those funds on healthy food, healthy grains, fish, lean meat, whole grains, dairy, fruit, vegetables. But unfortunately, people have been using food stamps or SNAP benefits for junk food. This is a $100 billion federal program. So according to RFK Jr., he says we cannot continue a system that forces taxpayers to fund programs that make people sick and then pay a second time to treat the illnesses those very programs help create. He's absolutely right. And what the MAHA movement wants to do is help reduce obesity, reduce chronic diseases, reduce diabetes, stop the sweetened drinks. So then why the heck are taxpayers paying for people to get those said, junk food, foods, not even real food. I don't even call it food, fake food. Now, who's criticizing this? Well, you're going to see a lot of people in the liberal media, but also we're being told that retail industry and health policy experts are not too happy about this. Really? If you think you're a part of health policy, this is a slam dunk. Well, apparently they are mixed on whether restricting SNAP purchases improves diet quality and health. According to the National Retail Federation, or Big Food, they predicted longer checkout lines. Oh no, the checkout line will be longer. And there'll be more customer complaints when they're trying to buy their Hostess or their Twinkies, and the SNAP card won't apply to that. You know what? I think they're going to live. According to Kate Bauer, it's a disaster waiting to happen of people trying to buy food and being rejected. Okay, no. Don't be calling Fritos and Doritos food. She's a nutrition science expert at the University of Michigan. Really? According to New York Post, they say a report by the National Grocers Association and other industry trade groups estimate that implementing SNAP restrictions would actually cost U.S. retailers $1.6 billion initially and $759 million each year going forward. It's going to cost them that money. Look, the individuals who want to buy junk food could use their own money. But Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program is for healthy, nutritious food. I don't understand how this is controversial. Now, SNAP Director Gina Plata-Nino, Director for the Anti-Hunger Advocacy Group Food Research and Action Center, who you would think would be all over making sure that we got healthy food to kids, she says punishing SNAP recipients means we all get to pay more at the grocery store. We're punishing a SNAP recipient by funding their SNAP card for healthy food and saying, no, you can't use it for food that could give you diabetes and obesity and high blood pressure and kidney disease and cancer? How are we punishing SNAP recipients? So she says the waivers are a departure from, New York Post says they are a departure from decades of federal policy, first enacted by 1964 and later authorized by the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008, which said SNAP benefits can be used for any food or food product intended for human consumption, except alcohol and ready-to-eat hot foods. Now, SNAP doesn't pay for tobacco, but you're telling me that soda pop is a food, a nutritional food? So seeing states start to kind of, it's about time. And again, we're doing this to help people. And I understand that, look, I like a good Twinkie, okay? I like a cupcake. And, I might have a Diet Coke once in a while. But I'm not going to expect the taxpayer to pay for that. Yet if I'm in need of nutrition for my family, I'm going to be very, very grateful that I'm getting the fish and I'm getting the beef and the vegetables. And maybe that's the problem. We went to these cards when we really need to go back to here. You could walk into a grocery store, and if you are a WIC recipient, you get the lettuce, you get the tomatoes, you get the single ingredient healthy grain foods. Here you go. And then make sure that food is getting from that grocery store to that table for that family. So, as far as I'm concerned, this is something that should have been done back in the 60s. But people didn't eat a lot of junk food in the 60s. There were treats. But now this is people's staple. I mean, they will use a tortilla chip and throw, food on it and make that. And mind you, I love tortilla chips. And one of my favorite things to eat is an arroz con pollo or a nachos with cheese and meat and some avocado and guacamole. And I like using the potato chips. But the salt from them is not healthy. I mean, we've been talking about this for years. We're consuming too much salt. We're consuming too much sugar. We're consuming too much preservatives. And maybe that's what we have to do. We have to say SNAP is for single ingredient food. The milk, the meat, the fish, the apple, the vegetables. We really need to revamp this because I hate to see an 8-year-old child get fed diet soda for their drink at dinner time with hot dogs and frozen meal salt and sugar and ingredients. And that's what's going into this child's developing body. And I get it, it's cheaper, but the whole purpose of us doing SNAP is so the family can afford the fish. They can't afford the lean meat. That's what we're trying to do. So the 5 state waivers take effect January 1, will affect about 1.4 million people. Utah and West Virginia will ban the use of SNAP to buy soda and soft drinks. Nebraska will prohibit soda and energy drinks. Indiana will also ban soft drinks and candy. Iowa, which has the most restrictive rules, according to New York Post, limits soda and candy and certain prepared foods. So here's the thing. All right. I want healthy food. I want people getting nutritious food. And I want people feeling like they are getting the nutrition they need. I also want the taxpayers to feel like they're not getting screwed and paying for somebody to get diabetes and kidney disease. And unfortunately, that's what we have. We have ruined our kidneys. We've ruined our hearts. We've ruined our brains. You wonder about all the depression and anxiety in young kids. Are we looking at their diet? There's a good chance that the crap they're eating is not what their body needs. And you give that child a nice, nutritious salad, they're going to probably be feeling a little bit better than if they're just eating chips and candy and diet soda. I don't think any child should have artificial sweeteners in their body. And I think child sugar should be restricted. And the FDA recommends that. So no SNAP benefits for candy, no SNAP benefits for junk food. It's a shame that it's only a handful of states. I think this should be, and the funny thing is California is a trailblazer when it comes to, and is so ahead of the curve as it comes to healthy food. Why wouldn't they support this? I mean, go ahead and lead the charge on this and make California one of the healthiest states. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regenerations. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
We are back on Dr. Dalia's show, 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So one thing that has drawn a lot of eyes and controversy is apparently there's a millennial that went to social media complaining that there are boomers, baby boomers, that won't retire. They're refusing to retire because of their old age, quote unquote. And this millennial is pretty upset about it. Now, I'm in between the millennials and the baby boomers. I'm Gen X. So the baby boomers were born between 1945 and 1965, although many of the baby boomers in my family who were born in 42 and 44 say they're boomers, and I agree. I always thought it was whoever was born during, the World War II when everybody was on leave or whoever was on leave. So if I know a lot of baby boomers disagree with that 1945 cutoff, but now on the internet, they're saying it's 45 to 65. You're a baby boomer. If you were born before 1945, you were a traditionalist. But if you want to call yourself a baby boomer, I am totally okay with that. Nobody wants to call themselves boomers, but millennials and Gen Zs call the baby boomers boomers. Gen X is me. I was born between 1965 and 1980. So I'm Gen X, and I love being a part of this generation, but we don't like to get into the drama between the boomers and the zoomers and the boomers and the millennials because, we have our own, drama. we have our own issues, right? And then your millennials were born between 1980 and 1995. Your Gen Zs were born between 1995 and 2010. Your Generation Alpha, 2010 to 2025. And we are going to start now seeing the Generation Betas, unless they come up with a better name. And so when I saw something like this is one of my kind of pet peeves. I do not like to see people rip on other generations or be anti-older people. Because one day I am going to be, a senior, and I do not want to be discriminated against. So I treat seniors really well. And when I see that millennials are upset that baby boomers don't quit their job, I'm like, are you kidding me? So this was in a Reddit post. It was shared on Monday. This is being reported by Newsweek. And it was under the username UUniqueGlove1105. Oh, unique glove. I don't know. There's got to be some meaning to that. I wouldn't know because I'm not millennial. And it's a 36-year-old who said after 5 years in the same role, They have no hope of moving forward with their career because their boss is 71 years old and refuses to retire, keeping everyone stuck in their positions. So they write, boomers won't retire and it's screwing the rest of us. There, I said it. They said, my manager is 71 years old. He's been in this role for 19 years, keeps saying he'll retire next year, and has been saying that since before I was hired. She says, I've been waiting for any upward movement for almost 5 years now. There is none. There won't be any because nobody blanking leaves. Now, the boss isn't retiring, from what we understand, because his wife got cancer in 2019. They had to use their lifetime savings because Obamacare doesn't pay, for a jack diddly squat, which we predicted. And so he has financial hardship, so he's working. Now, I don't think he wants to work in his 70s, but he has to. And so the person who posted this says, I get it. Healthcare in this country is a nightmare. I'm not saying he's a bad guy or that he doesn't deserve to work, but also, what am I supposed to do? Just wait until I'm 40 for my first promotion? This isn't just my company either. She writes, I keep seeing posts in here and other subs about the job market being impossible, and everyone's like, just get more skills, network better, but nobody wants to acknowledge that there's a massive bottleneck happening because an entire generation didn't save enough and now can't leave. So while they go on, that is something that is not just a problem now, that's been a problem for a while, and it's going to continue to be a problem. When one of my family members draws Social Security and all they get is $1,200, yeah, they're still working. All right. I don't know what happened to our money that we put into Social Security that was supposed to be taking care of us in retirement, but $1,200 doesn't pay for jack diddly squat. It won't pay for your rent. It won't cover your groceries. I understand you could also maybe get SNAP benefits and other things, but it is so grossly underwhelming. You need to work. And I understand that millennials and Gen Zs are now fighting for jobs. And you have an older person that's remaining in that job. Now, why is that? Well, many baby boomers have good work ethic. I'm not saying millennials and Gen Zs don't. I know a lot of millennials and Gen Zs that do. But if a boss is tired of the call outs of I need a stress day, so I'm not going to go in, or I need, these are things that a lot of the baby boomers, it's new to, it's foreign to. And so, I even noticed with my staff that certain generations had much more of a work ethic, than the ones that, clocking in and clocking out. And so you have somebody there for 5 years. Yeah, the company's going to want to keep them. But now, what about the idea that you can't get promoted? That stinks. Now, that's horrible. I totally understand being in a corporation where they promise you things and it doesn't happen. And now you're afraid to leave because you gave them 5 years of your life, 5 years of your youth. I get why they're upset. But then there's a better way to say it than going on to Reddit saying old people need to leave. That's not the way to do it. What you need to do is say, look, I've been here 5 years. I've been doing a great job. Here's all my evaluations. I don't want to leave. But if I'm not advancing, I can't stay. So what can I do, work? How can I work with you to change the situation? Now, if you have a boss who's toxic and a jerk, I would leave that job. And I've seen places where horrible employees never get fired. Now, maybe it's because they have something on the company. They have pending lawsuits. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why companies, are hostage to certain employees, and they just never get fired because they'll, bring the legal reign. But this attitude towards older people is scary. And I told you, the one thing that I'm really concerned about is as we have this push towards socialism or communism, you're going to have younger individuals, not every millennial or Gen Z, many of them are good, but you're going to have a lot of individuals say, triage out the older people. They don't need the funds. Their time is done. They don't need the hospital bed. They don't need the Tamiflu if it's on short supply. And that's going to be concerning. The discrimination against older generations and the bias, especially if they vote a political way, is frightening. And unfortunately, we keep seeing this in different ways. And so I hope that people get the job they want. I hope people get to advance in the jobs. They deserve that. If you do a good job, you should be able to advance. But the problem is when it's a scary time and people are very nervous about their financial future and there's fewer jobs and AI is going to cause a shrink in available jobs, people are going to start going after each other. And my worry is the vulnerable older population is going to be the target. So for those of you who are baby boomers and you're working because Social Security isn't enough, God bless you for that. You have every right to do it. You put in your dues. Make sure, though, that you're working with your millennials and your Gen Zs because they'll push you out. If they deserve a chance to progress and be promoted, work with them on that. But if you're working, you have every right to work. Keep your job, be productive, and do what you got to do because Social Security is not enough these days. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So this article caught my eye. Fox News has an article, Want to Stay Healthy After 40? Doctors say men should consider 14 medical tests. Now, these are interesting, and I agree with this, but I also have my opinion. The men over 40 age, 40 is the new 20, in our generation. But 40 means you've already, kind of hit a milestone where you could be at risk for multiple health issues. And so I asked the average patient, okay, when was your last physical? I see you're over 40. Oh, I haven't had one yet. I'm only 42. So you haven't had your cholesterol checked? You haven't had your heart checked? You haven't had a blood count? Well, when am I supposed to do that? So according to this article, and I'll tell you how I feel. This was a Cleveland Clinic survey that looked at men accounting for higher rates of nearly all major chronic diseases, but 2/3 admit that they avoid going to the doctor for as long as possible. And that's nothing new. That's, I tell you, the men in my family, super, super stubborn. And so Dr. Jack Wolfson, a cardiologist, in Arizona, told Fox News Digital that when it comes to preventing heart attacks, strokes, fatigue, erectile dysfunction, metabolic disease, early aging, testing is essential. And so one thing that I always recommend when I see a man over 40 is, the complete blood count, the comprehensive metabolic panel, lipid testing, EKG. I like to do a baseline check for blood pressure. So let me just review what this article says really quickly here. So they bring up immediately the CBC. Now, your CBC is your complete blood count. It looks at your white blood cells, your red blood cells, your platelets. I could see if you're having more of a virus than a bacterial issue or an allergy, clotting disorders. I love the complete blood count. It's not that expensive, and it's usually part of a routine workup. Very, very important. If your platelets are too low, you could bleed to death. If your platelets are too high, you could clot. So we got a lot of information from that. It's a simple test. Your comprehensive metabolic panel looks at your salts, looks at your liver function, looks at your renal function. It looks at your blood sugar. So I could assess liver disease, renal disease superficially, but still it's a good start. your adrenals. You might have a parathyroid issue where you're leaching calcium from your bones if I see high calcium levels. So there's a lot we could glean from that. Liver and kidney disease, diabetes, extremely important. A blood pressure check, this should be done all the time. CDC and USPSTF recommends that all adults 18 and over undergo routine blood pressure screening. Now, high blood pressure is defined if it's over 130 over 80. 120 over 80, you're already pushing it to pre-high blood pressure. So if you are 40 or older and your blood pressure is already above 120 over 80, that's a concern. Could put you at risk for cardiovascular disease. One of my favorite tests is the coronary artery calcium score. This is a scan that can measure calcified plaque in your coronary arteries. It is brilliant. And they're starting to get cheaper to do, less expensive. And identifying coronary arteriosclerosis early, huge in prevention of heart attack and stroke. So this should be done every 5 years if the score is 0, every 2 years if your score is elevated. If it's high, you should be in a cardiologist's office getting evaluated. We've had people with normal cholesterol, good cholesterol, already have plaquing and arteriosclerosis. Just think of your plumbing in your sink. You might be watching, things that don't necessarily, are full of lipids, et cetera, but your plumbing gets calcified and gets these deposits. So it's extremely important to be able to check that out. And then, of course, let's look at your cholesterol. So a lipid profile, not just the basic, but an advanced lipid profile that really dives into the LDL, the type of LDL, the HDL, the good cholesterol, extremely important to do. Your thyroid function, for me, always I use on a yearly blood test. Your thyroid is so involved in so many of your different body metabolic processes, whether it's if you have diabetes, we need to check your thyroid in case your thyroid's at play, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, mood disorders. So thyroid function is extremely important. If your thyroid is off, unfortunately, it could affect a lot of your body processes. And the PSA blood test. The USPSTF, the American Urological Association, American Cancer Society, recommends shared decision-making for men between 55 and 69 as it pertains to screening for your prostate. I like to order a PSA at age 40 as a baseline. And if I start, because I have picked up on aggressive prostate cancer in men in their 40s. And so I think it's important to at least have a baseline, and then you could see if it rises and how quickly it rises throughout the years. So I recommend a prostate-specific antigen test, but the USPSTF says it should be shared decision-making for men from 55 to 69. This is to prevent false positives, radical prostatectomies that may not necessarily be, shall we say, warranted if your prostate cancer is slow growing. So it is a shared decision, and you should be with a urologist helping make that decision as well. Insulin sensitivity is very, very important. Knowing if you have insulin resistance or insulin sensitivity. Now we're learning more and more about insulin resistance and how it causes long-term inflammation, future disease risk, extremely important. And then our hormones. Why we're checking female hormones. Why aren't we checking men's hormones? Luteinizing hormone, free testosterone, total testosterone. I think that's extremely important, especially in males who might be losing muscle mass, who might be starting to have medical conditions and medical issues. So low testosterone is something that has to be treated. And so looking at sex hormone binding globulin, follicle stimulating hormone, LH, estradiol, these are things that can be checked in men and women. Omega-3 index, that's a fun one. Cardiologist Dr. Wolfson, also founder of Natural Heart Doctor, it's a kind of a holistic cardiology process, likes to look at your omega-3 levels, especially EPA and docosahexaenoic acid, because those are also related to heart attacks, strokes, high blood pressure. It's not something that usually gets drawn, but you could ask about it. And a test I really, really advocate for is your carotid artery ultrasound. For those individuals at risk of stroke, where did the clot come? Where did, what caused, we're talking for ischemic stroke, what caused lack of blood flow to the brain? Well, sometimes it's pieces of your plaquing from your carotid arteries. So knowing how your carotid arteries look is extremely important. The ultrasound doesn't hurt, non-invasive, extremely important. And then I've done this multiple times, colon cancer screening. The USPSTF, American Cancer Society, CDC, is recommending screening average age adults for colon cancer, not starting at age 50, but start at age 45. And if you have a family history of colon cancer, you need to begin screening before age 40. And so colon cancer screening, extremely important. They also talk about the C-reactive protein. We've spoken about that, where it's a blood test that detects low levels of C-reactive protein. High C-reactive protein can be related to chronic inflammation, heart disease, stroke, cancer, dementia, diabetes, extremely important. And don't forget about vitamin D. Our vitamin D levels, very, very involved as it pertains to our heart disease, cancer, autoimmune conditions, blood pressure, insulin resistance, immune resilience, aging, our vitamin D level. You might think, I'm outside cycling, playing golf, I'm good. Well, a lot of us don't, especially during the winter time. And if our vitamin D is low, there's a very easy supplementation that we could take, whether it's daily or weekly. So I think our vitamin D is also a very important test to run. Whether Obamacare pays for all of this, remember with the ACA, they gave the ACA guidelines, and I tell you, these insurance companies are going to stick, with the bare minimum that those guidelines say. So some of these tests you might have to pay for yourself. But I think knowing comprehensively what's going on, it's not going to solve every problem. I also recommend a skin cancer screen for melanoma. I recommend evaluating your teeth, making sure your teeth are taken care of, hair loss. So there's a bunch of other things that we recommend, but this is a great place to start. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.